If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description.
Okay.
I'm just going to come out and say it. Morkull Ragast's Rage is a letdown. This game is just not good. It looks pretty good superficially, but once you actually get your hands on it and play it, everything just falls apart. I know that sounds like I'm being cruel. I never intend to be mean, but I always intend to be honest. Why? Because I spent 17 freedom bucks on this game, and I feel you should be as informed as possible before you do the same. I don't typically talk about value in my reviews, but with such an unpolished game at that price that only offers 2 to 4 hours of gameplay, this game feels like a laundering scheme or some kind of scam.
Legal disclaimer.
Okay, I'm being a little hyperbolic. Let's just get into it. Morkull Ragast's Rage is a Metroidvania that blends classic platforming elements with a touch of exploration. You control Morkull, the god of death and darkness, who's become aware of his existence as a video game character. This self-awareness leads to frequent fourth wall breaks, allowing Morkull to communicate directly with the player. And with the player's help, Morkull plans to bust out of this video game prison and rule the outside world. I don't even want to do a transition to the review. This game is bad. So let's just talk about what makes it bad and see if we can salvage anything positive from this mess.
Combat.
Morkull's combat admittedly isn't too bad. It just overstays its welcome, which is ironic considering how short the game is, but I'll get into that in a moment. Morkull has a light attack and a strong attack that can eventually combo and combo into each other once you've unlocked the moves in the game's skill tree. More on the skill tree in the progression section. And hitting the enemies feels not great. It's tough to explain. It's something you have to experience yourself to understand. Hits feel slightly delayed, especially the heavy attack, and the hang time for aerial attacks was more of a hindrance as the game really isn't a combo heavy game, especially because the 3-hit combo you have to unlock launches most enemies away from you. And enemies in the game hit super hard. Morkull tries to use a lot of Souls-like elements without understanding what makes these elements appealing in the first place. Dying easily because you're weak and enemies are strong only works when controls are tight and enemy AI is predictable or at least consistent. Sometimes bats shoot 1 ball of purple goo, sometimes 3 balls of purple goo. Sometimes this bird shoots projectiles after dive bombing you, sometimes the bird dive bombs you after dive bombing you. And when each hit takes a third or more of your health, this lack of consistency leads to many cheap deaths and frustration, which I guarantee was intentionally done in order to inflate the game's runtime. Keeping with the misuse of Souls-like elements and artificial runtime inflation, this game has corpse running. Actually, it doesn't. It does something worse. It just takes away half of your souls, this game's currency, when you die. That's it. Half your souls are gone and there's nothing you can do about it. F me, I guess. I'm not a fan of corpse running, but I get why some people are. It puts pressure on players not to die, but if they do, they have a pathway to redemption, which adds even more pressure on the player. I don't get it, but some do, and that's cool. Morkull, on the other hand, doesn't even bother with the retrieval part, making its approach to death needlessly punishing. But as far as Souls-like mechanics go, Morkull at least gets the Estus flask right in the game's potions. So, credit where credit's due. Let's talk about combat overstaying its welcome. Morkull uses a lot of arena fights. You walk into a door, it shuts behind you, and now you have to fight all the things in order to get out. Typically, I don't mind arena battles, but Morkull uses them every chance it gets and just sends wave after wave at you. It feels like every arena fight goes on forever. And when combat's not that fun in the first place, these fights become wars of attrition, breaking players down so they just give up out of boredom or frustration. But how are the boss fights? I don't know, lame. There are only 3 bosses, and they're so easy. Morkull's given a dodge, a block, and a parry, but I never had to use them against the bosses. I just jumped over them, hit them a couple of times, moved, and repeated until they were dead. Sometimes I'd have to move a little to evade a projectile or a laser, but nothing that would get me worried. And that's it for combat. In the end, Morkull has all the ingredients for a solid combat system, but it fumbles nearly every execution. The sluggish attacks, inconsistent enemy behavior, and overuse of outdrawn arena fights turn what could have been a fun brawler into a tedious slog. And with only 3 underwhelming boss fights that barely test the mechanics the game gives you, combat never reaches the level of depth or satisfaction that it desperately needs.
Abilities. Platforming.
Morkull's abilities are fine, tried and true MV staples. Dash, air dash, ground pound, double jump, a wall breaking attack, a wall jump he just starts with. Nothing bad, just nothing special to help the little god of death and darkness stand out. And you get a majority of these abilities within the first 30 to 60 minutes, which I'm okay with, considering the abilities are so bog standard. Heck, Ori and the Will of the Wisps did something similar. And because Morkull is front-loaded with all these abilities, its platforming actually isn't that bad. I had the most fun with Morkull when I was jumping around and not dealing with enemies. Morkull had some fun platforming challenges that were well designed. There were these orange spheres on rails that needed some polishing, but overall, Morkull's platforming is solid. There's no real puzzles in the game, but there are times when you need to find a key or keys to open a door. There are a lot of levers that open gates, but the game was inconsistent in showing you what gate a lever opened. Sometimes you'd pull a lever and seemingly nothing would happen. Other times the game would pan to the gate a lever opened. It was strange and a little confusing, to say the least. And that's it for this section. While Morkull doesn't bring anything new to the table in terms of abilities, its platforming is surprisingly solid. The early access to movement upgrades keeps traversal engaging, and the game's platforming challenges are its strongest aspect. However, inconsistent design choices, like unclear lever mechanics and a lack of meaningful puzzles, prevent it from reaching its full potential. Still, if there's one thing Morkull gets right, it's that jumping around is more fun than fighting.
Progression.
Morkull's progression system is odd, so much so that it's tough to place it on the Metroidvania spectrum. It's a Metroid-like in that you can collect potion fragments to increase your healing potion charges, yet it shares some Soulsvania elements in its skill tree. Defeating enemies gives you souls, and you spend those souls on the skill tree to unlock attacks, increase your potion efficacy, and stuff like that. You can also increase your HP by killing a boss, but none of the other bosses give you anything, so it just feels kind of random. And I guess that's it for this section. There's no gear or side quests. The game's so short, there's really no reason to improve your character. I'll just go to the next section now.
Exploration.
Put simply, exploration's unrewarding. The game's pretty linear, though it does open up a little in the back half, allowing players to get so far in a biome before they get ability gated. But there's not a whole lot to do in this small world. You can collect the vitally important potion fragments to increase your healing charges, and some souls you can use in the skill tree, but everything else you can find is mostly junk. Collectibles that have Morkull saying something fourth wall breaky in their descriptions, yet don't add anything to improve his stats. The game's biomes are fine, they look nice, but I wasn't invested in anything this game was doing narratively, so the biomes didn't resonate with me. Though, like I said, they looked good. There's no denying that Morkull's art direction is pretty nice. And that's really it for exploration. There's just not a lot to say. The map is okay, except it doesn't track Morkull's location in a room properly, and you can't mark it up, and fast travel is done the way I like it by making every save point a place you can travel to, but then the actual fast travel menu isn't very helpful. There are a lot of baffling design choices Morkull makes, like how he goes into this obnoxious dive animation when he falls for so long. It just completely takes all control away from the player, but for what reason? It's not like you can use this dive to do anything like in Rebel Transmute, it's just there to be obnoxious. Tangent aside, exploration in Morkull is just not thrilling. Let's just move on.
Atmosphere. Narrative.
Let me get this out of the way. I do not like Morkull's atmosphere and narrative. Though the backgrounds, environments, enemy designs, and music range from good to great, none of it comes together to make a cohesive atmosphere, especially one that the game sells itself as. This is where I'm really going to go off, but you can't have a character say fourth wall breaking things and consider that enough to create something tongue-in-cheek, a parody, or even a comedy. By and large, self-awareness and deprecating humor at the expense of a genre typically falls flat. Especially if it's all done mainly through dialogue. Case in point, 2 parsecs from Earth. I don't have anything to add by mentioning 2 parsecs. I just wanted to remind everyone that that game sucks for the exact same reasons Morkull sucks. Making fun of genre tropes and cliches and talking to the player directly isn't funny unless there's some kind of subversion. And even that's not guaranteed. Morkull almost had something interesting happen when a platform unexpectedly crumbled beneath him. He blamed it on the developers trying to stop him from escaping the video game. Then Morkull says he has programming skills and fixes the floor. That was rad. Unfortunately, it set expectations that the game never intended delivering on. I thought Morkull was going to unlock abilities that let him reprogram the game so he could advance. Maybe find some code that lets him erase locked doors or make water disappear so he can explore the depths. Any of that would have been cooler than what the game gave us. Normally, I try to keep my expectations in check, but Morkull literally set those expectations in this scene early on in the game, and nothing like this ever happens again. Here I was, hoping this game would be like that Daffy Duck cartoon where Bugs Bunny's the animator who's screwing with Daffy the whole time.
Am I a stinker?
But instead, the devs are mentioned a bunch, but they're never present. It's a shame. And I get it. I did this to myself. I got disappointed by my own expectations. But they weren't my expectations. The game actually set up something interesting for me to get excited for, and then nothing. I'm just gonna stop here. It feels like this game had some ambitions to do something like that Daffy Duck cartoon, but something happened and they were forced to make this game instead. A game that doesn't do anything new or interesting and fails at being funny or relevant. And that ending. I'll just say it's unsatisfying and lazy. And if it's not lazy, then it was something they threw together at the last minute. Very disappointing.
Final thoughts and score.
Morkull Ragast's Rage feels like a game with potential that never quite delivers. While its platforming is surprisingly solid, the rest of the experience is weighed down by sluggish combat, frustrating design choices, and an underwhelming narrative. The game tries to incorporate Souls-like mechanics, but misunderstands what makes them engaging, leading to artificial difficulty spikes and punishing mechanics that feel more like padding than challenge. Exploration is equally disappointing, with little incentive to backtrack beyond the occasional potion fragment or useless collectible. Worst of all, Morkull's self-aware humor and fourth wall breaking gimmick fall flat. Instead of delivering a clever subversion of Metroidvania or video game tropes, it settles for lazy jokes and missed opportunities. The one moment that hinted at something unique, Morkull rewriting the game world, never develops into anything meaningful, making the entire narrative and game feel hollow. In the end, Morkull Ragast's Rage isn't the worst Metroidvania out there, but it's certainly one of the most frustrating. It has glimpses of fun, particularly in its platforming, but everything else overstays its welcome or feels half-baked. If you're looking for a challenging and rewarding Metroidvania, this ain't it. If you just want to jump around for a few hours before getting bored, then maybe. I award Morkull Ragast's Rage a 4 out of 10. Morkull Ragast's Rage is available on PC and all other major consoles. I played Morkull Ragast's Rage exclusively on the Steam Deck. The game performed well, but the writing and in-game menus was smaller than I was comfortable with. Therefore, I award Morkull Ragast's Rage a Steam Deck rating of playable.
Tier placement.
While its platforming is enjoyable and the hand-drawn environments are visually appealing, Morkull Ragast's Rage is held back by sluggish combat, unrewarding exploration, and a narrative that fails to deliver on its self-aware premise. It's not outright terrible, but it's forgettable. An unpolished experience that struggles to stand out in the crowded Metroidvania market. Morkull Ragast's Rage breaks the fourth wall in the D tier. I nearly placed Morkull in the F tier, but with its platforming and visuals actually being good, I couldn't justify such a placement. But I really wanted to put it there, let me tell you. I guess, ultimately, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. I was really looking forward to a self-aware MV protagonist giving the genre a good roasting with some unique mechanics harkening back to one of my favorite Looney Tunes cartoons. Instead, in the end, Morkull Ragast's Rage tried to break the fourth wall, but maybe it should have focused on breaking new ground instead. Regardless, I'm taking a break from this disappointing MV.